So, Survive picks up mechanically where Snake Eater left off. The game's director, Yoda Tsutsumazaki, who'd been working on the series as a writer since MGS3, made it his mission to retrieve as much from everyone's favorite jungle game as possible and adapt it to the world of MGS5. Back is the stamina meter, but new are different ways to replenish it. Hunting makes a return too, but the resources like animal meat and plants can now be cooked into meals to improve their nutritional value. Each food source also replenishes the new hunger and thirst meters differently, with wetter foods substituting drinks at the cost of more weight, which itself determines how fast you can walk, whether or not you can sprint, and how much of a toll movement takes on your stamina. Injuries are back too. Attacks don't just subtract arbitrary amounts from a health bar, but instead each hurt differently depending on how and where you were hit. Just like MGS3, you need to enter a status menu and administer appropriate treatments to heal your distinct wounds. However, rather than scavenge medicine straight up, it needs to be crafted from resources collected on your excursions. This probably sounds like a lot and maybe even kind of boring if you're not used to survival games, but the point here is that you get waves of that awesome big boss shit, but you have to drip feed it. It's a reward you grant yourself for balancing all the depleting survival meters well enough. Like, half of the game is actually doing all the cool combat stuff and action and all that shit, and the other half is building the system that feeds you, that lets you do all this stuff. Now, I've been bringing up crafting and manufacturing a lot, and the idea of heading out to go scavenge. Where you go out from, and where a lot of the resource management happens, is in your base. It's not only a place to deposit and work with the items you've collected from the dust, but Mother Base is also where you can grow them, as in herbs, vegetables, and animals you discover can be farmed here. From the radio center, you can also send your troops on reconnaissance missions to pick up some of the rarer things like copper and gunpowder in parallel to your own missions. This is where you research weapons, armor, treat your staff, no surprise if you played some of the other Metal Gears with base building mechanics. Though rather than handle all this through automation or pages and pages of menus, you're forced to be very hands-on with Survive's Mother Base. In addition to accumulating resources here, your base also needs to be defended from occasional enemy intrusions. It's not just some isolated offshore facility disconnected from the rest of the world, it's on the map. Every excursion begins and ends with you passing through its gates and surveying your home, and so just like you can walk to and from it, so can certain enemies. Your huge water treatment tanks and animal pens and scrapyards and infirmaries are only useful to you if you can defend them. To do so, you're allowed to design its exact layout and organize things as you'd prefer defending them. A consequence of which is that you feel a lot more attached to this base than usual. Its structure begins resembling your playstyle. For instance, via a couple of lucky outcomes, I was able to get enough resources early on to build a pretty powerful baseball bat.